Karibuni, asanteni. Welcome and thank you to everyone for joining us today. Jina langu ni Nduko. My name is Nduko. I am the host on Kumbukeni. This is where we reach back to remember who we were, remember what path we have taken, remember what has been done to us, remember who our friends are, remember who our enemies are, so that we can decide how we're going to move forward. Not only so that we can decide, so that we can make that decision in an informed way and not in a blind way, which helps us make better decisions. So this is the importance of reaching back and remembering. Kukumbuka. So kumbukeni. Asanteni again for being with us. Today we are covering Cheikh Anta Diop. For those of you who've never heard of him, this is a very, very important book in the journey of decolonizing your minds and embracing your Afrocentrism, your African self, your Ubuntu self. So Black Africa, the economic and cultural basis for a federated state by Cheikh Anta Diop. And I will put it in the chat right now. Actually, hold on, let's do it this way. We have our family on Twitter joining us as well today. And for some reason, when I post here, it doesn't show up. You know what, actually, let me see whether when I post here, it shows up on Twitter. Let me see. Because usually when we are on the other platform, it doesn't show up on Twitter. So let me see. And cultural basis for a federated state. And we're talking about state on Nsi Ya Ubuntu, Africa. By Cheikh Anta Diop. Let's see whether it's going to show up on Twitter. If not, I'll have to type it there as well. We do the work even with limited resources. We do the work. The limited resources do not stop us from doing the work. They might limit how far we reach and how effective the work is, but they don't stop us from doing the work. Okay, I have to type on Twitter as well. Federated State by Cheikh Anta Diop. Okay, so that's what I'll just do. I'll type there and then it will show up here. So Cheikh Anta Diop was a renowned Senegalese historian, an economist as well, anthropologist and political theorist. His works, especially this one, Black Africa, remain foundational for understanding how Nsi Ya Ubuntu can unify and reclaim its destiny. He literally has 15 steps, which is basically what we're going to use for today's lecture. I was going to go through the chapters, and then I said, you know what? He tells us everything in the chapters. And for those of you who want to read the book, please, yes, read the book. But the most important part of the book is the 15 steps, the instructions on how we should move forward and why. And so that is where I focus my lecture on, and the discussion on Monday that we usually have on Twitter. I will bring in some of the observations within the chapters to strengthen the reasons why he decided to give the 15 steps. In the book, it is titled, and I think this is a typo, 14 steps, but when you go through them, they are 15. When you see them, actually, they're numbered 15. So I don't know if one is repeated. There's a few there that seem similar, but there's some differences. So let's go through them. You will tell me what you think. And please do tell me what you think. Tell us what you think. This is a community experience. So the like I said, it explores the 15 essential steps, and that is what we're going to be looking at. The first step, and for those who have the book, the steps are, or who've never opened it, the steps are on page 88 and 89 of this, which version is this? The expanded edition. This is how it looks. Okay, so the first step, and I rephrased them, but you will, if you're looking at the book, you'll see it's what he's saying, but I'm rephrasing them. Restoring the consciousness of our historic unity. Restoring the consciousness of our historic unity. So actually of our history, not just historic unity, our history, because we really didn't have a historic unity. We are building unity now because of what we have faced. We really didn't have unity then. So restoring, and I will correct that, restoring the consciousness of our history, who we are. A lot of people in spaces, on Clubhouse, in when I'm talking to them face to face, they say it is not important to learn history. Let's forget about what happened. Let's move on. I don't want, just recently, I don't even know what platform it was. I'm answering people on so many different platforms. Recently, someone told me, oh, I don't want to be the victim. I don't want to always be the victim. It is not being the victim. It is acknowledging what has been done to you so that you do not forget who did it. And this is not business of forgiving, because these people still continue to do these things to us. So it is one thing to forgive someone who has stopped and has repaired harm, but to say that you forgive people who continue to do the harm is insanity. And so we need to stop being insane and get our senses back and start acting like human beings with consciousness and who don't have cognitive dissonance. That is part of what we're going to be discussing as well. So we must learn who we were. And through learning who we were, I have learned so much. Through history, I have learned so much. If I did not dig into history, because this book is part of history, I wouldn't know as much as I know today. I wouldn't be as equipped as I am today to run these lessons, these lectures. I wouldn't be as equipped as I am today to take action on the ground, to say these policies are not right, to start critically thinking and questioning a lot of things that are happening and wondering why they are happening, if not for understanding how we got here, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. That is an essential book by Walter Rodney that is important in understanding why we are where we are and who the criminals who must be indicted are. So how do we put consciousness of our history into practice? Kumbukeni is an example. If you have the resources, if you don't, I don't have that many resources. Lucky enough, when I started Kumbukeni, I was still employed, and therefore I was able to use some of my check. And there were 3 of us at the time. We split the costs and we started Kumbukeni and paid for the expenses that we encountered then. So you start a podcast, you buy a computer, you need headphones, you need a mic. Sometimes you don't even need a mic right now I'm not using a mic with the laptop I have. I'm not using a mic, I don't have headphones. So you don't have to have it perfect to start the work, is what I'm saying. So you can start a podcast where you're informing people. If you have learned, if you have encountered some information that you want to share with people, that is one way that you can put consciousness of our history into action. If you are becoming conscious, share that consciousness, because taking it to your grave is useless. You might as well not even become conscious. And then Pan-Africanism, which we must figure out a different way of naming it, because it has been so co-opted by the CIA and many other I don't want to call them the COON word, but Black people who feel like they need to continue impressing white people. Black people who feel like they need to continue being a part of they have this yearning to be a part of the white system, that they betray their own people. So Pan-Africanism has been infected by that. And therefore we need to come back together, be clear on what this thing is that we are calling our global unity, how we're going to call it, and make sure that we guard it. Make sure that we guard it from being co-opted. Guarding it means pointing out those who are involved in bringing the infection within our community. So no more giving grace. Giving grace, I believe, is what has kept us here for a long time, honestly. Our kindness, our blind kindness is what keeps us here. Continuing, we're dealing with people who don't even understand the concept of kindness, and we're offering them kindness. It's insanity. Again, I said it's insanity. So we need to stop being insane and get our senses right. So Pan-Africanism, reviving the ideas of leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Marcus Garvey, again, Marcus Garvey all the way from the Caribbean, Jamaica. All these are our people. We must start bringing their ideas together and uniting all of us and stop building this difference. Because of Marcus Garvey, because of the red, black RBG, red, black, and green flag, Kenya was inspired to put the red, black, and green. And many other African nations that you see having that red, black, and green, it comes from Marcus Garvey, someone all the way in the Caribbean, a descendant of enslaved Africans, Nsi Ya Ubuntu, who was taken all the way away from the continent to the Caribbean, inspired us on the continent to move in a certain way. And we cannot detach from that. We cannot ignore that. We cannot let it go and be swept under the rug by these white people who want us to believe that they're superior to us and that their history is more important than ours. So the other way you can restore consciousness of history is uniting beyond borders, which is what essentially I am saying. So I don't see myself any different from a Ugandan. I don't see myself any different from a Nigerian. And coming abroad helps a lot with this. I'm not telling you all to come abroad. Now that we know, start engaging with people outside. We have the internet. You can engage with them in that way. We have those of you on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever space you are in. You watch videos, you see Wodemaya sharing about all these other places, he is married to a Kenyan woman. He's Ghanaian, married to a Kenyan woman. Like this, we have to start closing borders in these ways. This intermarrying within our community is going to help us build the unity. So myself meeting someone, a descendant of enslaved Africans in the United States, building a relationship with them, that is uniting. That is strategically building our relations. Yes, let it be organic. Don't just be, because again, you want to also maintain your mental sanity. Don't just be joining people for the sake of, you will find someone in those communities that you can actually connect chemistry, spiritually, and be aligned with as far as being partners. So this is something we should also do. And tribalism, nationalism, as far as ourselves, must go out the window, out the door. Whatever openings you have, let it go out of our community. We see ourselves as one. The only difference between me and someone in Uganda is whatever language they're speaking. And even then, we are building a language of unity, and you will see it is one of the steps that Cheikh Anta Diop gives us, that we must have a language of unity so that we can continue seeing that similarity amongst us. Having a language of unity does not take away from your ethnic languages. It doesn't. I learned Ubuntu, erroneously known as Swahili, from when I was a small child. I speak fluent Kikamba. I speak some Kikuyu because I went to school in Kikuyu land. I say hello and make some jokes in Kiluo because I had Luo friends when I was going to school. So, and I know Ero, Soba, Masai, because you encounter these people, just even if it's just learning how to say hello. Having a language of unity does not take away. You can learn. We have brilliant minds that can take in multiple languages at the same time. Don't limit yourself because a white man has ingested fear into your system, where you think that if you, and the irony is this comeback, this return where people say, what about my language, is never brought up when it comes to embracing English, embracing French, embracing Portuguese, embracing whatever other colonial language that you want to. You all will sign up for some German classes, Italian classes, before even thinking twice and saying, oh, what about my Yoruba? I don't hear you saying that when you sign up for German or French or Italian or whatever other colonial language that you choose to. But when I say to you, let us learn Ubuntu for unity, you want to come here with excuses about Yoruba and Igbo. Yes, those are the people who majority of times come to me. That's why I'm specifically saying Yoruba and Igbo. I said we have to hold ourselves accountable. This is not just about shaming Yoruba people and Igbo people. These are the people who I have encountered who come to me and say to me, what about, if I embrace Ubuntu, what about my language? I don't get it from Ghanaian people. I don't get it from other people. It is usually that specific group of people that have that fear for whatever reason. So stop it. And then we must embrace our cultural identity in restoring our consciousness. Again, our African spirituality is part of that. And yes, this is where I have people I engage with, Christians, who hear me say that I haven't come out heavily, especially in Kenyan spaces. I haven't come out heavily. I do mention it once in a while. I am 100%, if there's anything more than 100%, anti-religion. 100%. I am urging you, if you want the liberation of our people, to be 100% anti-religion. Why am I saying that? And embracing our African spirituality. Because of our detachment from who we are spiritually, we are where we are. 1804 is a movie I just watched recently with a friend who recommended it. It is about the Haitian Revolution, and it shows how spirituality was a big part of the Haitian Revolution, of them building the strength, the mindset to withstand whatever superiority or advantage, let's call it advantage, that the French had at the time, and the British, right? They had guns and everything. So they use spirituality and their knowledge of their landscape, their connection, because that's part of spirituality. Your connection with nature is part of your spirituality, to rise above whatever advantage that these enemies had. Religion has made you hate who you are. Religion has taken the African woman out of the community. Again, all of them. Islam, I should say, not Arabic, Islam. The woman has to go in a separate room. Or when you say your prayers, the man, the boys, even your little son stands in front of you, woman stand behind. And yet, in Islam, you say that the way to get to heaven is through your mother. And I'm wondering, if the way to get to heaven is through your mother, why is she inferior in your behavior on earth? Things that don't make sense. Critical thinking, where you must ask, this does not add up. And if you notice, when you ask that at the mosque, at the church, at the temple, at whatever other religious institution that is built to build capitalism and to build governance, because that's essentially what it is for, you're told it's blasphemy. You're told you have committed haram, right? Fatwa. It is put upon you because you have questioned Muhammad and the book and whatever other things that don't make sense. And so my question is, if these religions are really what they say they are, they say that this God that in the different ones is a forgiving God, why then does he not allow for questioning? Why doesn't he allow, because it's a he in all of them, why doesn't he allow for critical thinking? Why are you so shunned when you question and things that just don't make sense? So cultural identity is part of it, and African spirituality is a huge part of it. I had a conversation with a fellow Mwana Ubuntu recently. Our attire. I'm dressed this way because I'm going to be working out after I finish this. So I'm dressed this way for convenience and to save time. I'm going to be working out. But our attire is very important, which is why I'm very intentional when I come on Kumbukeni to be dressing a certain way. And by the way, listen out, soon I'm going to be talking about a company that I am going to be working with to promote their clothing that they sell. Actually, they already sell, but I will be promoting that clothing to encourage more of you to go and purchase your African attire from them, because they are making African attire, an African Mwana Ubuntu company. So look out for that information. And as I say that, I remember, because I usually do not promote Kumbukeni so that we can make revenue, so that we can continue doing the work. We have our line out of sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs, I think I did, and a tote bag for Black History Month. I know it is Black History Month in the UK, I think the rest of Europe. So yes, but mainly the UK. If you're looking to get that Black History gift for whoever it is that you're getting it for, we have our sweatshirts, our t-shirts on Kumbukeni. We hope eventually to have a website where we can actually sell our merch on reasonable prices, because YouTube, the vendors, they are very expensive, I think, for our people. So anyway, we move on. Step 2, linguistic unification for continental and global integration. I have Mwana Ubuntu, very educated Mwana Ubuntu, some who even teach the language, who laugh. They laugh when I say Kiubuntu, erroneously known as Kiswahili. That sentence, Kiubuntu, erroneously known as Kiswahili, they laugh at me. I have Mwana Ubuntu who laugh at me because I have decided to be self-determined as far as that goes. I have decided to rename our language of unity and detach from a name that was given to us by our colonialists, the Arabs, the Oman Empire in Eastern Nsi Ya Ubuntu, and call it Kiubuntu. They laugh. This is the jokesters we have become. That we're given a window to walk into self-determination, and we laugh instead of embracing it. So I will go ahead with a full chest and say, Kiubuntu, erroneously known as Kiswahili. Originally, I would say, and why do I say erroneously known as Kiswahili? Because the Swahili people are not really the people who built Kubuntu. That's what I would say, because my understanding then was that the Swahili people are the descendants of the Arabs mixing with our ancestors. So the children born out of that were the Swahili people, are the Swahili people. But I was corrected by Robin Walker recently, this great historian from the UK. We had him on our collaboration sessions with the Imaginal Kelbulan. And he said to me, Swahili are basically the people, the black people, the people with this type of skin, darker, lighter, you know how chocolate goes. The more, like, it ranges. The spectrum is wide of the brownness of our skin. And the Arabs arrived there and they said, oh, these are the Swahili people. I forget the Arabic word, and I keep forgetting this, and I keep meaning to come back. There's an Arabic word, and it means, well, it basically is describing us. And from there, because they were governing, because they are telling you what you're going to say, they're putting policy, they're putting governance, I guess, practices. And so we follow them, because if you don't follow, you're going to be found criminal, right? So you do not have the freedom to choose and decide what you're calling yourself. For those of us who went to school during the Moi era, like 20 years ago, for those of us who went to school then, you remember, if you spoke Ubuntu, erroneously known as Kiswahili, this I must be patient about repeating that every time, as tedious as it is, because I need it to sink in your heads, and I need to be as good as these criminals in repeating the message so that it gets stuck in your brain. You would speak it and you would get tagged by the monitor, and you had to wear that thing that said you were a disgrace because you spoke a language other than English. If we spoke Kikamba in school, again, you had to walk around with that. I forget what we called it. It was a thing. There was a string, and there was a wooden placard, and I forget what it said, but it wasn't a celebratory word. It was a disgraceful word. Basically, you had violated the rules of not speaking mother tongue, is what they called it, right? And so we were not free to speak our own language, and we were forced to take on this name. So why would we continue to take on a name that was given to us by force, that was given to us through Maafa, especially when we learned that we can actually call it something else? The commonality between us is the practice of Ubuntu, right? You are because I am because you are. What does that mean? We have been people who were centered in community. And a lot of our communities, you see, they're built in a circular way, and everyone is living within that circle, so that we can all help each other, so that we can all protect each other, so that we can all care for each other and be there for each other. This is essentially Ubuntu. You see it in Maasai land, you see it in Kambaland, you see it in the Nguni nations, you see it in Namibia, you see it in West Africa, Nsi Ya Ubuntu West, you see it in North. It is everywhere. But because we want one word, we decided to go with the Nguni People's Nation's word, Ubuntu. And for you to push back on that is ridiculous to me, because again, and I will always come back to this, you do not push back on nonsensical words given to you by colonialism. Example, democracy. You don't push back on that. And all the other nonsensical words that you keep repeating that you don't even understand what they mean. So let us embrace Ubuntu. This is the new name we're going to be calling our language of unity, erroneously known as Swahili. Ki Ubuntu, the language of the people of Ubuntu. So it is already spoken widely in Eastern Nsi Ya Ubuntu. And I had suspected this. I kept saying to my community this, that I believe that Ubuntu is the most purest in Congo. And some people pushed back, some people understood, and we would show with certain words why we were saying that. But it was very reassuring to have Robin Walker affirm this, confirm this, that yes, it is true that the purest form of our culture is in Congo. And which makes sense that Kwame Nkrumah says that we should center liberation on Congo. And as long as Congo is not free, we are not free. Cultural renaissance, again. Okay, that's the linguistic unification. Breaking colonial divisions. The languages of the colonialists, what they do is divide us. The French cannot speak to the English. The English cannot speak to the Portuguese. And so if we continue using those languages, we continue keeping those lines of division. right? And you see yourself more as a Frenchman than you see yourself as a Mwana Ubuntu because you're so aligned with that language. You see yourself more as an Englishman than you see yourself as Mwana Ubuntu because you're so aligned with that language. Abandon. Nowadays, when I make mistakes in English, I am so proud. It is hilarious. Back in the day, I would beat myself up because I had a very strict primary school English teacher. A very strict Mr. Njoroge, very strict primary school English teacher. And you beat yourself because that's what was being done to us. We were beaten when you made mistakes. So you beat yourself up when you make mistakes. And nowadays, I embrace it because it means I am getting more grounded in my language, my African, my Ubuntu languages. When I go home, I was telling a friend recently, when I go home to visit, I rarely speak English. It was so bad last year when I went home that I got on the phone with a friend and I was forgetting words in English because I speak Kikamba, I speak Kiswahili. Kikamba, Kiswahili. Kikamba, Kiswahili. When I see the Maasais, I speak to them in some Maasai. When I see the Luos, I speak to them in some Luo. Like, this is how I move. This is how we should all move. All right. Step 3, elevating national languages for parliamentary use. So we expand that. We embrace our language of unity. But even beyond embracing our language of unity, within our nations, those main languages within our nations, so in Kenya, because there's so many nations, so many different speaking peoples, we have decided Ubuntu is the language that will unite us as far as parliament. So that is what we will use. In places like Ethiopia, they have Amharic, which is common to all of them, and maybe not. So maybe they should just use Ubuntu as well. But in the places where the one language is common to everyone and everyone knows it, use it for your parliament. Use it for your governance. No more using English. No more using German. No more using Portuguese. No more using French. When these people come, and they shouldn't be sitting in your parliament, actually. They have no business in your parliament. You go to the United States and tell me whether you're going to just walk in there and sit in their house and chill, listening. No. So I don't know why we keep inviting them to our spaces. So they don't even need to be there. But when they are there in our union, when they come for discussions in our union, our federated state, when we have discussions with them, when we have negotiations with them, they will have to put on their little mics and get the translation and interpretation like we do in the UN. They'll have to just put on their little mics and get on board. No more accommodating them. So, elevating national languages in parliament. That is part of the solution. Inclusivity in governance. So by using national languages like Yoruba, Zulu, Wolof, or Amharic, leaders from all walks of life can participate. You're not going to make the person from Mashinani, Mashambani, Mashinani, from the rural area to feel like they're not worthy of being in parliament. Because we have decided that apparently to be parliament, you must say all these big words in English. You must say all these big words in French. So you're educated enough and qualified enough to be in parliament. No. I have seen more brilliant people who speak mother tongue than these English-speaking fools. So let's not fool ourselves that speaking English, speaking French, speaking Portuguese, speaking German is a sign of intelligence. Let's not fool ourselves. And then decolonizing politics, moving away from reliance on foreign languages removes the barriers that keep many from engaging in political process. That is what I was explaining essentially. Empowering grassroots leaders. Everyone will feel that they can be a part of governance. When we take away these colonial languages that lie to us, that speaking them is a sign of intelligence. I gave the example of Tanzania. Tanzania has used Ubuntu, erroneously known as Kiswahili, to teach the different languages, chemistry, math, all sciences, everything in Ubuntu. And they've had brilliant, intelligent people who have come out of that nation, who understand and who can sit with Englishmen and Chinese men and Portuguese men and women and whatever other colonial, and toe to toe on subjects, on expertise, on these matters. So again, let's stop fooling ourselves and let's wake up, my brothers and sisters, ensuring gender representation. The other day, I don't know what I was watching. I was watching a clip of some Kenyan something, and there were two women in a flood, an ocean of men. right? When you look at the Kenyan parliament, and I use Kenya a lot because that is where I am from. But everywhere you look in Nsi Ya Ubuntu, very few women. And Malcolm X, here we go, connecting with our brothers and sisters who are descendants of enslaved Africans. Malcolm X, when he traveled to Nsi Ya Ubuntu, he said this: you can tell a nation's progress by how they're treating their women. Thomas Sankara was big on this, reviving the position and reclaiming the position of the woman in the community. And I was joking with a friend yesterday, talking and saying, we were talking about men, and we were saying how they need us. And it's not a joke, and we don't say it to diminish you and your manhood. We say it because, and I acknowledge that we need you as well. We need each other. And so removing either one of us from community is breaking our family structure. And our family structure is the root to our community wellness. And that is a problem. So you cannot diminish the African man, you cannot diminish the African woman. But because patriarchy, which comes with colonialism, imperialism, has upheld in some way the African man so much, we're saying the African man needs to look back, kumbuka, to look back and take his woman and bring her beside him so that we can rebuild our community. Ensuring gender representation. For those of you who've been in marriages, you've seen situations where you're sitting with your spouse, male spouse, and they're stuck, they don't know how to move on something, and every now and then you'll come in and you'll say something and it's click, the light, click, they get the answer, click. We're always a sounding board for you men. So do not take us away from decision making, because we have shown our value and we are valuable. So gender representation. So Wana Ubuntu women have historically held leadership positions in pre-colonial societies. Again, Mekatilili, Amina, Nzinga, they're all over the place, women. Mama Kanyisile is writing a book. She's going to, the women you see behind me is the cover for that book, Obulungisa, Deconstructing Gender in African Spirituality. The untold stories of African warrior women. We are reclaiming our position in the community. We're telling you men, you better get with it. You better get on schedule, because we're doing it. So join us. We're not going to allow patriarchy to diminish our role in our community anymore. We're not going to do that. We're not going to allow Islam to diminish our role in community anymore. We're not going to allow Christianity and the Pope to tell us African women, Wana Ubuntu women, what role we should play in community anymore. We're going to determine for ourselves, because we can see with our own two eyes how we are needed in our community, and the effect of us performing fully without being held back, what that does to our community as far as building a healthy and well community. Step 5, living African federal, oh God, I'm only on step 5 and we have 15. So let me stop, less talking, more going through the steps. Living African federal unity. We not only talk about federal unity, we practice it, we live it, right? Diop believed that the unity of Nsi Ya Ubuntu should be lived, not just spoken about. He advocated for immediate unification, starting with French and English-speaking Nsi Ya Ubuntu as a practical first step to us. So he's saying the western and eastern side of Nsi Ya Ubuntu. Immediately. How does that look immediately? I am engaging in everything that I do with my brothers and sisters from the West, my brothers and sisters from the South, my brothers and sisters from the North, as long as you're not seeing yourself as a white person, my brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, my brothers and sisters in the borders of the United States, my brothers and sisters everywhere, as if I am one of them. Because I am one of them, I am engaging with them. In your own personal life, you can start engaging with them. I am introducing them to my foods. They are introducing me to their foods. I am introducing them to my music. They are introducing me to their music. We are learning about each other and seeing the commonalities between us. Yes, we have differences. We're not a monolith, but we have that similar thing that when you turn on some music, you know it comes from your people. Whether you're in France, whether you're where, you can recognize your people. When you smell some food, you know someone Ubuntu is cooking somewhere. You don't know where they are from, but you know someone Ubuntu is cooking somewhere. That is our commonality that we must embrace. How do we put this in action? Despite having an African Union, which has clearly failed us, there are still divisions. There are still divisions between nations to this day. We still have conflict in Nsi Ya Ubuntu. So we must rethink, do we need to build another federated union? And yes, the answer is yes. And we are starting to do that. For those of you who follow us, we're going to be having a virtual conference in December, from December 14th to December 15th, Saturday and Sunday, virtually. We're going to talk about how do we go about this unity beyond these African leaders who are not getting it. We cannot wait for them to wake up. We cannot wait for them to stop being selfish and centering themselves. We must move without them, because it is our lives that are at stake. So we are going to start unifying without them and building without them. And then he warns us, Cheikh Anta Diop warns us, look at Latin, what happened when they didn't unify, how they've been divided, their economy has fallen. That's back in the day when he was writing this. Now Latin can point at us and say, look at Africa, how they've been divided, because we didn't listen. Because we didn't listen to our elders when they were talking to us. And so, and I've given this example, Nkrumah, when Ghana got its independence, he was celebrating, but he made it very clear to tell his people that despite this independence, we have not won yet, because our brothers and sisters elsewhere are not free yet. And that's how we have to think. As long as Congo is not free, none of us is free. He says that we must unite, showing the rest of the continent what is possible. So even if we cannot unite as a whole 54, let's start in our small groups. And this is where I come in and say kudos, congratulations, hongera, speaking our own languages, hongera, that's Ubuntu, congratulations to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger for starting that unification movement. And hopefully more will join. And a unification movement that does not have the French involved, that does not have the Russians involved, that does not have the US involved, that does not have foreigners involved. One that is just between yourselves. Number 6, opposing the creation of white states in Nsi Ya Ubuntu. This business in South Africa of thinking the white man can govern in your nation has to stop. This business in Zimbabwe of talking about the opposition party and I am seeing white people has to stop. I know I'm radical. I know, oh Nduko, why do you say that? Oh Nduko, you're racist. Yes, I am racist. I am racist for a reason. I am racist because these are invaders. I am racist because these invaders, while in our continent, are mistreating us and oppressing us and subjugating us. It is one thing if they were seeing us as brothers and sisters and building with us as brothers and sisters, then we would be okay with them being there. But they're not. They're colonizing us. They're denying us resources. They're taking our resources and giving it to their brothers and sisters that they see commonality between elsewhere. So this business of talking about a white South Africa, no more. A white person does not have Ubuntu. No matter how long they've stayed there, I don't care if they say this is the only place I know. I will remind you where you come from in my process of Kumbukeni, and you can go back there. And if you think I am radical, if you think I am racist, if you think I'm horrible, let's just flip a page and go to the immigration situation, the politics of immigration in the United States, the politics of immigration in the UK, the politics of immigration in France, in Germany, elsewhere in Europe, and you tell me what they're saying about you and your people going there. And then you come and tell me that I'm being mean. So, opposing the creation of white states in Nsi Ya Ubuntu, apartheid and settler colonialism, South Africa's history of apartheid, as well as settler regions in countries like Kenya and Zimbabwe. Kenya, you know, the White Highlands. If you thought that you were special, White Highlands, which still has white people influencing, serve as reminders of the dangers of white supremacist states. That's the thing. They are there still with their white supremacist mindset. And they're seeing you as inferior. They're not seeing you as one of them. So it serves as a reminder of the dangers of white supremacist states within Black Nsi Ya Ubuntu. Nsi Ya Ubuntu sovereignty, right? We must maintain full sovereignty over our land and our resources. Full sovereignty. Foreign attempts to carve out exclusive white territories must be resisted to ensure that Wana Ubuntu remain in control of their continent. So these things of conservation, this, conservation, that, led by this organization, stop. It has to stop. And then neo-colonial tactics, such as land grabs. And this is what I was just mentioning, right? Conservation, this. And economic enclaves by multinational corporations or foreign governments, China included, the US included, the UK. No one is not being included in this as long as they are foreign, because they are all dirty and they are all to blame, must be monitored and opposed. We must stay vigilant and always on top of it. Step 7, preventing the emergence of an industrial bourgeoisie. The bourgeois are the ones who've gotten us here. I was talking about these Kenyans on Instagram with their shoe closets, their walk-in closets, their restaurant visits, their dining here and there, they are driving Range Rovers. I saw, let me not name it. Let me give you grace today, my brother. The other day, some brother posting that he just bought a Range Rover. First of all, the laughable thing is that it's a used Range Rover. It's the bakshishi of the mzungu that you're celebrating over here. But celebrating while you embrace a culture of exploitation, a culture of individualism. You have protesters in Kenya. When you walk into that Range Rover, and 2 weeks ago you were covering protesters, don't you feel like guilty? Can't you get a Toyota and then the rest of the money that you're spending on the Range Rover, use it to build your community? All you need is 4 wheels that can move you, functional 4 wheels and a good engine and a nice structure that can move you from one place to another. What it says on it, what does it matter? Range Rover, BMW, what it says on it, again, that mindset, we have to change that mindset. As long as my vehicle can get me from point A to B safely, what does it matter what it says on the vehicle? We have been lied to. We have to stop so that we can start using our resources in more important things like building our communities and not investing in Range Rovers and walk-in closets. Your walk-in closet can be a home for the person in the shanty in Kibera. Your walk-in closet can be a safe home for someone. This is how we must start thinking. Communalism, this is part of it. We have to go back to the communalism model. I'm not talking socialism. I'm not talking communists. I'm not talking whatever else a white man said that we should abandon, that they stole from us, plagiarized, and put another band-aid name on it. I'm talking our communal way of being that we have always practiced. Some of you Kenyans know it as Harambe because some of it has been left. Like you can see residuals. What someone was talking to me, I just learned this, and I hope I'm saying it well. Residuals in your culture that show that, yes, that was your culture. I am learning as well. So you can see that to this day that we were a communal people. It still remains, right? When I was coming to the United States, my father and mother had lost their jobs. They were not in a good place financially. What do? They reach out to family and friends and community members back in the rural area, and they all come together and they raise money for my ticket, and they raise money for me to move. This is what we've done. People die, we come together, we raise money. We come together, someone is harvesting, they don't have children, we come together, we help them harvest. Mwalia, this is what we do. Or is it Mwedia? This is what we do. For the Kambas, remind me, I might have forgotten that one. This is what we do. Mwedia, I think. Mwedia. This is what we do. We come together and we work together to build our communities, to solve problems together, to make it easier for your brother and sister. And I was saying to a fellow African the other day, because I love to cook, I'm always cooking for people around me. And I never step back to say, oh, what are you doing for me in return? No, I just get pleasure in making my brother and sister's life easier, in doing something that I enjoy doing anyway, something that brings me pleasure anyway. I'm not looking for you to do anything in return for me. This is how we need to start thinking. Just do it for them because it makes their lives easier. And in making their lives easier, you make your life easier. So it's like a healthy cycle. Empowering the working class. No more looking down upon the Juakali people, Mama Mboga, seeing them as less because you're wearing a suit and a penguin suit for that. No more looking down on them because you speak some certain English or Portuguese or French. No more looking down at the people who are doing construction. No more. We are all one people building our nations, building our continent, building our motherland. And each one of us is important. The people who clean the toilets are just as important as the people who are making the final decision in whatever big industry that you have. All of us are essential in making the community function 100% and in making sure that the community is conducive to our well-being. So we must respect each other's role in community. Step 8, states industrialization and mechanization of agriculture. Here, I step back also. As we look back and as we listen to our ancestors, we must also correct based on our experience since they wrote their books. We must correct. We know now that mechanization is not ideal. At least most of the mechanization of agriculture is not ideal. It is destroying the ecosystem. The soil is being destroyed. The health of the soil is being destroyed. And we are seeing more people going back to that old way of using a hoe, djembe, to till the land, to loosen the soil. I'm not going to call it tilling, because tilling is what is destroying the soil. That lifting of the soil and exposing all the nutrients to the sun and to the elements is destroying the soil. We must learn now how to do agriculture where we are conserving those nutrients and covering them from the elements so that they are retained within the soil and they can build the microorganisms. So again, these advancements that we keep celebrating and holding up as if they're civilized are not necessarily ideal for our well-being. And when we learn that they're not, we must change our actions. So the big thing now, the big thing that we're all going to take is going back to our traditional ways of farming, where we are preserving the soil and we are not over-tilling it and turning it and killing the nutrients within it. So instead of mechanization, we have to go back to permaculture, agriculture, permaculture, where you make sure that your land is covered all the time so that it's protected from the elements, and you make sure that you're feeding it. If you plant corn here, you know corn takes away nutrients from the soil. You make sure you add some legumes, some beans, some, what do we call them? Lentils, so that they can put back nitrogen into the soil, right? So you have to learn these things and we have to start practicing them. And by the way, when they lie to you that we need this industrialization of agriculture so that we can provide food, if all of us were doing that little subsistence farming, we will not have a problem of food shortage. If all of us start embracing farming, if all of us stop being embarrassed by farming, because that's what they did. They made you think that you being a farmer is you being unintelligent. You being a farmer is you not being educated. No, I can be in a boardroom and slay it 100%. Take those clothes off, put on my farming clothes, and go slay it on the farm. In one day, I can do that. I can sit here with some intelligent, God knows who they are, from China, wherever they are, have a discussion, give my ideas, sound intelligent, be intelligent because I am. And then I can close my laptop and I can go get a djembe and plant some peppers and till my land. Well, care for my land. I am being very intentional about watching what language I use. Care for my land so that it can care for me in return. We must stop being embarrassed about these things that actually contribute very heavily in our well-being. So, industrialization. I've said we need to revive the textile industry in Kenya, grow our own cotton, process it, make the fabric. None this business of China, bringing fabric from China. No more. If the Chinese man wants to help, go ahead, build those factories in Kenya. They'll be run by us. Thank you very much, Mr. Chinaman. Here is a bag of gold for you. Goodbye. That's how we need to move. So, number 9, building a powerful, modern Nsi Ya Ubuntu army. Again. And this, by the way, external threats. We continue to face military interventions and interference from foreign powers. Why? Because we have military bases, foreign military bases within our Nsi Ya Ubuntu, within our motherland. And I asked some Kenyans the other day, what do you think they're there for? What do you honestly think they're there for? The day you decide to rise against them, that's what they're there for, to protect their interests. What are their interests? And they tell you this, point blank. They tell you they're there to protect their interests. The thing that you haven't done is ask them, what are your interests? And beyond asking them, because they will lie to you, looking and investigating what their interests really are. Follow the money. Follow the money is always a good policy in everything that you do in this capitalist world. Follow the money. The money will tell you what their interests truly are. So, foreign bases must be closed. No compromise. must all be closed. Doesn't matter whether it's China, doesn't matter whether it's Russia, foreign bases must be closed. The only way Russia is there or China, because it's a strategic relationship that we have, it will be our base, and we have a few officers coming to advise on certain things. Goodbye, go home, thank you for your advice when we are done. And there's only a certain point we give them information. There has to be a background of information that we don't give anyone, that we keep for ourselves. Civic education, I'm glad to see Kenyans moving. Before here, I was in a room run by KOT, my friend, Nothing KE, a bunch of Kenyans are doing some great job. Civic, Morara even is doing civic education for the Kenyans. Those of you who know those names, you know who I'm talking about. Simple people, Collins the other day, Collins who was arrested, he was here as well. We have, oh God, why am I forgetting your name? Tomboya, but now you're going by another name. All these people are doing civic education in their own way. Whether they're famous, whether they're not, they're all educating. What are they doing? They're exposing to the Kenyans that these politicians lying to you that they took this money and built this road. Look, this road is not being built. They lied to you. They pocketed that money. Bringing awareness. Telling there's a farmer in Kenya. Gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Great man. He's found a great strategy of educating farmers within his location. He's doing that. That is civic education, telling them these policies, this is what they're going to do to you. This you paying for water, these things that are coming in, this is what they're going to do. We all must start educating. When we learn, we share that knowledge that we have learned. Establishing technical institutes. Cheikh Anta Diop is big on this. He was a scientist himself, right? He says, I've said this, we cannot rely on the West to do research. I saw there's a new vaccine coming from China. No. Were you in the room when China was doing the research to build that vaccine? Did they tell you what the ingredients are? Is the US telling you what is in a vaccine? Were you in the room? Did you know whether part of your genes, because they're connecting our DNA, were used to build that vaccine to destroy your people? Do you know that? Have you been told that? Is there transparency? So why are we, again, intelligent Wana Ubuntu? Why are we falling for this stupidity? Why? We must do our own research. We must build our own research facilities within our own nation. And we cannot let them know what we are doing. They can know to a certain extent, but we must protect our research as well, because we know they take it and use it against us. We must have schools that are going to teach computer science, schools that are going to teach engineering, schools that are going to teach all these technical skills that are needed to build, right? How do you make steel? Let's teach that in our schools, because we know steel is essential in building, right? How do you make clay walls that will not crack, that will stay for long? How do you make clay bricks? Let's start teaching that, because we need that skill to build shelter. Everything you need, this is how we should base our education. If we need food, we must teach how to produce healthy food. If we need clothing, we must teach how to produce good clothing that does not affect the ecosystem, the process of producing the clothing. If we need shoes, we must teach how to produce shoes. If we need vehicles, we must teach how to make vehicles. If we need homes, we must teach how to build homes. Like, that is how we should base our education. What do we need to survive? We must teach those skills. And we must teach them from an African perspective. And those facilities must be on our continent, not outside. That helps us also keep the labor within our community so that it builds for our economy. Reducing luxury living standards. I named you all with your closets. And every now and then when I have the patience or when I'm feeling petty, I will comment in your spaces about your big luxurious walk-in closets, and you're in Kenya with no shame. And there are people who just passed by your house protesting because they have no food, and you're showing your walk-in closet on Instagram. And Kenyans, some of them who have no food, are coming to praise you. Cognitive dissonance. You doing the opposite of what you should do. Your mind, your eyes are showing you this thing is wrong. You go ahead and do it anyway. So we have to reduce the luxury living standards that have been brought to us and go back to our communal, simple way of being. You have food, healthy food, check, good. I have clothing, good clothing, comfortable, I'm not itchy, it's not giving me infection, I'm not having allergic reaction, check. I have a vehicle to move me from place to place, check. Or a means of transportation, check. My health is cared for, I have plans to keep disease away, I have protection when disease comes, Check. We have that. We have a good education system. Check. What else do I need? Why do I need Range Rover? Why do I need to have like a grandiose experience at a restaurant, paying $100 for a burger, $50, $70 for a steak, when you could go slaughter the cattle in your community and share that steak with multiple people in your community? You could go buy some steaks and have a barbecue for multiple people to have that steak. For that $70, by the way, that you eat one steak with one person, you can buy multiple steaks and share them with multiple people. This is how we need to start thinking. So reducing that luxurious lifestyle. So it's Cheikh Anta Diop says, a lot of our leaders live these lavish lifestyles while their citizens struggle with poverty. I said this to someone when we were trying to do this protests and rebuilding of Kenya. I said to them, a requirement should be that leaders who come, there should be no millionaire who is qualified to be a leader. No millionaire qualified to be a leader. I'm going to say that, and I'll explain why. No billionaire should be qualified to be a leader. No trillionaire should be qualified to be a leader. Why am I saying that? Because how did they make that million? How did they make that billion? In today's economy, how did they make the million? And is everyone a millionaire? Are there people who are earning $2 an hour? Are there people who are going without food? So how is that person a millionaire if there are people who are going without food? So why would you choose that person who has kept for themselves to be a leader for others when they have kept for self? They have held dollars and dollars to build a million. Why would you choose them as your leader when they have shown you through their personal life that they keep for self? That's how they built their millions. Again, we have to change how we think. And that is why I say that if you're a millionaire, you're not qualified to be a leader. So we reduce our luxurious living style and we go back to just standard basic living so that more of us can have that standard basic living. And we're not exploiting, we're not denying resources and access to others. Salaries must be comparative. Political leaders' salaries should be comparable to workers' wages, because then you can feel the pain of workers. You should not be earning millions when the workers, the common worker in your country is earning 20,000 Kenya shillings and they can't even pay for a house. No, it's going to change. The leaders' salaries are going to be equal to the average of the salaries in Kenya. Simple. This is how we get to a progressive place. It sounds harsh, but trust me, if we all embrace it in 10 years, it took Nkrumah 10 years, 4 years for Sankara to show a difference in Burkina Faso, we will start seeing the benefits. We will start seeing more of us looking healthy, happy, well, less stress, less protests, less killing. We'll start seeing that if we embrace these solutions. Organizing production cooperatives. If you cannot do it by yourself, let's come together. We are stronger together. This is one thing we are doing. The conference we are planning in December, part of it is we're going to start building seed banks. And with those seed banks, there will come like agricultural tourist centers. So within that area, we will have at least 5 huts with self-contained huts, place to sleep, a bathroom, and then a central place to eat, like a restaurant where everyone comes together to eat and you go back to your hut. If you're in the West, if you're in the city and you feel like you're overwhelmed, but you don't have a place to go back to where you can be in touch with the earth, you'll be able to go to those spaces. We're going to start with Nigeria. We're building one in Congo. We're going to build one in Kenya. I'm saying this as an unemployed person without income, but knowing and having faith that together we can do it, and we will do it. And if we do it, we're going to start building a healthier community, a stronger community. We have more power together. So producing, organizing production through cooperatives, we must embrace that. That's step 12. Step 13, creating model state farms. Diop advocates for the creation of model state farms that would serve as centers for technical. So this essentially is communal centers of educating farmers, communal centers of educating the wananchi, the owners of the nation, the children of the nation, the citizens, wananchi, educating them on different things, how to farm, how to build, so the state has to be responsible as far as sharing skills and educating people, making sure that we have centers where we can educate. Repopulating Nsi Ya Ubuntu. Let us not sleep on this one. When they tell us that, oh, all you know is to sleep with each other and produce children, there's some truth to that, but let's not also go to the other extreme. right? So, and part of this, by the way, is not just getting together and making children the traditional way of making children, as you all know. I don't need to get explicit on that, but also avoiding the brain drain. And on top of avoiding the brain drain and the manpower drain, bringing back those who have left, myself going back, the descendants of enslaved Wana Ubuntu coming back, repopulating the continent so that we can start building the continent and building these communities that are going to be essential in building our economy and our well-being. And then policy of full employment. It says we should implement a policy of full employment which aims to eliminate material dependence among various social categories. He envisions a system where everyone, regardless of social standing, has access to employment, which in turn would reduce economic inequality and foster social stability. There's a lot of unemployment everywhere. And this does not have to look traditional. It just means that there's a way you're using your skills, you're using your talents to generate return for yourself, for the needs that you have in your community. So these are the 15 steps that Cheikh Anta Diop is telling us. And let me look at the chart. Again, it is a high time we stop ignoring the wisdom that is being shared with us. And we start practicing, listening and practicing, putting it into practice. I'm gonna go quickly through the chat. If you have any questions, please ask them. David King says, exactly right. Cheikh Anta Diop showed us that what the Mzungu called the Asian mode of production was truly the African mode of production. Yes. Created in the Nile Valley. Yes. There's books, there's evidence for you to find that out. Armstrong, true, religion is a big hindrance to our liberation. 100%. I don't care how emotionally connected you are to your church, to your Bible study, whatever it is. Stop and think and look at what things it tells you that are hindering you from progress, that are hindering you from being a full member of your community, and women especially. And for those of you who think God is a man, and you go ahead and tell me, you read the verse where you tell me from the Bible that we are all built in the image of God, I know you can all see me right now. I don't look like a man. So if I am in the image of God, why would I think that God is a man? So if I see God as a woman, my brother sees God as a man, why would we limit God to a certain gender? If the dog understands what we are saying, sees God as a dog, if the plant has intelligence beyond our own intelligence, sees God as a plant, why would we limit God or the originator or the creator to any identity? So David King also says that's how we created civilizations that have been rivaled anywhere else in the world. Yes. In the United States, they used our people to help them figure out agriculture. Yes. They used our people to help them figure out agriculture. They didn't know how to grow rice in the South Carolinas. They were taught by our people, our ancestors. You all want to uplift the Mzungu. The Mzungu has learned from us. And then because he was subjugating us and we were too busy fighting for our lives, he had the room and the space to take what he learned from us and expand on it. And now he looks like a genius, but all he's done is deny you access because you're a genius. And with the access that he has, with the resources that he has, you will clear them. And any innovations that they've had, you'll be able to do that and more. So start believing in yourselves. Baruti Katembo, Nduku, I like your analysis and critique and the no of Mzungu governance in Africa. Also, could you comment on the recent sentiments that West Cape be in the back? Yeah, I'm 100%. This is part of what Cheikh Anta Diop is saying. When you allow them to come to your space because they're coming with white supremacy, they're going to claim your land and say that, you know what, this is now ours to govern. You're not allowed here. And you brought them there. The thing is, we don't learn. We invited them because we were kind. They took us, they kidnapped us, they enslaved us. And then we continue to invite them. And they haven't changed behavior, but we continue to invite them. Yet they haven't changed behavior. So we must sit back and ask, what is wrong with us? Why are we behaving like this? And how can we correct that? So yes, Baruti, I am 100% against that nonsense in South Africa. I don't see white people as South Africans. I don't call them South Africans. They're white people. They can call themselves South Africans all they want. I don't see them as South African. Just as much as the American doesn't see me as American. They'll tell me I am, but they don't see me as American. They don't. They'll remind me that if I do something shady, they'll send me back where I came from. So please, make no mistake, I'll treat them just as they treat me. Lord N.D. True. Without Christ the King, there is nothing. Good for you. All the best. All the meek, only the meek, those who, okay. No more millionaires. We don't need money lovers and greed merchants. At least we agree on something. Yes, live simple. See, we have commonalities despite the foolishness that happens behind the closed doors, talking about Christ and all that. Baruti Nduku Bukati, Washington, found out HBCU, Tuskegee University, would love your advocacy for the insert of STEM education. Well, there were some issues with Booker T. Washington. Conversation for another day. He did some good, but also questionable things about Booker T. Washington. God is not only a man, he is a man's man. Well, good for you. Good for you, man. I hope that makes your day lovely. I love you all on Ubuntu. I love us, who we are. I love our music. I love our hair. I love our skin. It protects us from the sun. We are beautiful. I love our food. I love our intelligence. I love being with our people and interacting with our people. We must love ourselves. Asanteni, siku njema. There's more comments. Yes, Marcus Garvey. We named him before. Lord N.U.D. True. We named him before. Again, Marcus Garvey, whether you name him or not, he is evident in the flags of many nations in Nsi Ya Ubuntu. That red, black, green comes from there. For those of you in Kenya who don't know where that comes from, Jomo Kenyatta was in the West in school, and he encountered all these people. So this is where all that comes from. Asanteni, siku njema, kila laheri, kwaherini. See you all in them streets, them internet streets, as long as these people are not banning us. And by the way, what they're doing to African Stream, 100% against it. Let's go ahead and build our own system so that we are not reliant on their systems. Because again, to seek our liberation under their system is to be criminal. I have accepted to be, I'm a criminal. Listen, because I seek liberation for our people. Because to seek liberation for our people in their system is to go against the oppressive laws that they've been put in place. And therefore, in that way, thinking logically, we are criminal because we seek liberation from their systems, from their oppressive laws. Asanteni.